Welcome back to the Staffing Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Farrell, and I'm joined here by our co-host, Genevieve Bourgeois. Genevieve, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you today, Stephen?
So good, especially because we have a special guest today that's going to be joining us. I want to introduce our guest as well as our topic. So the first topic we're going to introduce to you. So we'll start with the topic first. Ready? All right. So our topic today is about gaining client share. And our subject matter expert who's going to give us play-by-play, the playbook, is no other than Kim Henderson. Kim Henderson has over 28 years in the staffing industry. She's been a recognized leader in sales, in recruiting strategies, account growth, client engagement. She's the founder of Cobalt Compass Solutions, where she helps staffing firms maximize their potential by delivering world-class training and consulting. She has been featured in the Staffing Stream, Staffing Hub, and multiple industry events. You guys, as soon as you see her, you'll know exactly who she is, and you've seen her in many events. She shares her expertise with staffing professionals, how they can move from being just seen as vendors, which is what we talked about in our last episode, to becoming trusted strategic partners. So please give Kim a warm welcome to the stage. Kim Henderson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing outstanding. Great to see you, Steve, and Genevieve. Great to see you as well. Let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We have been so excited about this.
Great. Thanks for inviting me in. It's a topic that I love to talk about because I think it's one that sometimes staffing companies tend to overlook or sometimes maybe don't do as great of a job at as they possibly could. And there's a lot of opportunity there.
100%. You know, I'm so excited to interview you today because I'm interviewing you on a topic that you shared during the Staffing Sales Summit, which I missed your workshop. Really sad about that. So now I get to, it's just a one-on-one workshop today with you, Kim. So I guess maybe this might be better.
Well, that's right. That's right. 2-on-1. More personalized attention, right?
That's right. So in today's conversation, we're going to be diving into a topic that's just crucial right now for staffing firms. Everybody's looking to grow their business and scale. It's a challenging time right now, and gaining client share is really, it's no secret. Clients are looking for partners. They're not just looking for providers. And that's exactly what Kim is going to break down today. She's going to help you deepen your relationships, maximize account penetration, and become indispensable to your clients. So Kim, are you ready?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, so let's, and she's brought a slide deck with her today, which is fantastic. So let's maybe start with the big picture. Why is account penetration critical for staffing firms, and how does it help in becoming less expendable to our clients?
Sure. I think, Steve, as I mentioned, we do a great job by and large of going out and getting clients, but it's really rare that staffing companies go and get as much out of each customer as they possibly can, right? They tend to have a mentality sometimes of, I'll call it one and done or two and done. And what that does is once you're making one or two placements, whether it's a contract or a permanent direct hire type of an account, you're in the churn mode, right? You never really increase your head count. You never really become significant or relevant to that particular client. It's kind of like the hamster wheel. And the reason why it has a deeper importance is, let's think about this. As customers go and evaluate their supplier list or the vendors that they're working with, what's the first thing they look at typically? Head count, right? They look at the number of heads that you have on assignment if you're doing contract work, or if it's direct hire, how many people you've placed in the last year. And if they're comparing you to your competition, and your competition's got 55 people out on assignment, and you've got 5, who's more significant and more relevant to them? It's your competition, right? So therefore, you do stand a chance of being eliminated off of the list. And if you're not significant and they don't know about you, you're not impacting their business, so you're not gaining more opportunity for you and your company to go out and do more volume type of hiring or more exclusivity if it's direct hire. So it's interesting. The more you penetrate an account, the more opportunity not only comes your way, it kind of cascades upon itself. And then they start to realize that you're crucial to their business model and they start to actually give you more work. So those are some of the reasons behind why it's important that we want to focus on it.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you asked that question, I was thinking, okay, what are they looking at? They're looking at, service levels with communication, turnover, but results, but then also headcount. Well, of course, if you've got 5 and the competitor has 55, like they're looking at that 55 much closer than your 5, and you may not even be looked at. It's like, oh, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, you're not pivotal or crucial to what they're doing. And let's face it, headcounts and placements are our results, right? So that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, looking for results.
All right.
So
my
question is, when it comes to clients, it sounds like, yes, they're definitely looking at results, but would you agree with the fact that it's like they're looking for a genuine partner, not just a provider?
100%. I think you definitely are reading ahead. They're looking for us to be like an advisor to them, right? Like that counselor, to where we understand what their business problems are and actually how to solve them. And we'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. Think about any relationship, right? When you go and buy a car, we've all had to do that at the dealership. Pretty darn transactional. You're there, we suffer through it, we go. We wouldn't consider them an advisor or counselor. It's a person running a transaction, right? And that's what we don't want to be as a staffing provider. What we want to be like, I think, is we've all watched the Vanguard and Fisher Investment commercials and look at their strategy. It's not just to help you go in and buy a stock and then sell it and get out. It's to be a counselor to you to where you plan for retirement. And then once you get into retirement, just still counsel and advise you that your money, lasts an entire lifetime. So again, that's like their model, the counselor advisor versus just, I'll call it, buying the car, in, out, done, finished, transactional. So that's like the way I like to look at us is in staffing. We want to be more like that Vanguard model.
Yeah, it's interesting. We did our big customer appreciation event yesterday, delivering 125 plus dozen donuts to our current customers and to our prospective customers. And it wasn't on purpose, but we got new business out of it. And so I was actually messaging Dan Morey, telling him about the event, and he's just like, customers don't want to be sold to. They want to purchase, right? Meaning, like, it's their decision to work with you. They decided that, hey, you're the best service for them. And so the fact that we, had a lot of fun, we weren't selling, we just had genuine conversations talking about their business. They were more open. Now they wanted to purchase from us versus being sold to.
Exactly.
And that goes with our current clients as well, right?
Right.
You want them to want to do business with you, to continue to do business with you. Like, that's a choice.
Exactly. You do that really through, asking questions, listening, and then ultimately solving their problems, right? Versus like what you said, they don't want to be sold to and pushed into it, right? They'll kind of repel that.
Now, a big part of gaining client share is having an effective client meeting. And I've got that slide pulled up here. I know that's something you wanted to hit on in this conversation.
Sure. I'll call this the easy layup slide before we get into some of the deeper things. Our goal in a client meeting, I see a lot of folks go in there and I'm like, I got to get a job order. And that's great. While we do have to get job orders because that's how we live and we keep our seat and book revenue, oftentimes it enables us, if we're thinking like that, we step over, the dollars to get to the dimes. I like to say. So we can't just be focused on getting the job order. What we want to understand is the entire opportunity, right? And we'll get into that into a moment. And then, of course, determining we want to create that relationship with them, as Steve mentioned, and also evaluate them, right, from the get-go. Perhaps it's a client, a prospect we shouldn't be working with. It's best to understand that now, and they're going to have a lot more respect if we can kind of come to that agreement early on, versus deluding ourselves and deluding them and then falling short and not showing up, right?
That's right.
So, and this is what we mentioned a second ago as we kick things off. The more client share, the more you're selling into this account in terms of, all the different services that you have, the different product lines. If you have different product lines, the greater your revenue, the greater your headcount, the greater your number of placements means you become relevant to that client, and therefore you're less expendable. Pretty darn hard to eliminate a staffing partner when they're in every part of your business, right? And they're running your IT projects, your finance and accounting projects. So that's our goal. Be relevant so we're not expendable.
Mm.
That's nice.
And I actually I'm cheating as I go ahead here. Genevieve and Steve, what do clients want for us at the core, right? Of course, they want a person, but what do they want from us?
That's a great question. In my mind, it's not, they don't want people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want their product to be produced and shipped out to their customers. They want that revenue. And so they just happen to need people to do that.
Exactly.
One word, solutions. They want solutions because they have problems. They've got issues. They want to keep their business up and running. And one of the beautiful things about staffing is that we can customize and tailor solutions to assist their business, help them grow. But in general, we got to keep in mind, we're in the business of people.
Genevieve, spoken like a veteran staffer. They want us to solve their problem, right? Deliver a business result for them. And it could be any of these things on this screen, or it could be something completely different, right? Kind of like what Steve had mentioned, sometimes that's how they arrive at these bullet points here is through the staff we provide, but it's make my problem go away so I can get a business result here, whatever that may be, and keep my job and thrive. So I think, again, it's all about kind of setting our mindset when we go into a client meeting instead of just thinking very tactical job order, get down to the core of what their problems are, and that's going to help set you apart, right? So how do we do that is, you're going, well, how do I set myself apart? How do I differentiate? I think becoming a specialist is a key way to do that. And it really helped me and members of my team over the years. And I'm not saying, guys, we need to go back to school and go get a professional engineering certification if we're placing engineers. Not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we need to start to understand their specific business issues and, learn about the nuances of their industry and what they're going through, right? So think about any industry that's actually out there, like telecommunications or DoD integrators or financial services or healthcare. So I did a lot of government sales, and you really needed to understand what the problems were that these DoD integrators were having, like in terms of finding cleared candidates and things like that. Become a student of that. Understand how you're going to go in and solve that problem for them. So with it, when it comes to becoming that subject matter expert, right, it starts to make it where you migrate up that value chain to where you're not so commoditized anymore. The staffing generalist, I think, gets commoditized. And what happens with that? Rates just shoot right down through the floor, right, and keep on going into the basement. So you're going to, as you come across as this SME and prove yourself as an SME, you're going to be able to go and start to command a higher fee structure for the work that you do, which is beautiful. And I think what we're trying to convey is, hey, we understand we're experts in whatever it is, healthcare, travel, RN case managers. This is what we do. This is what we know. And because of that, we're going to give you a competitive advantage, Hospital A, because we know how to do this type of work, right? And with that, there's a lot of ways to get this information. There is joining professional and trade associations within the industry. So I mentioned, again, DoD integrators, where I did a lot of work. You have National Defense Industrial Association, or you have ABC if you're placing folks in the skilled trades. Go out there, join these associations and events, and navigate with these individuals, not only so you can make contacts with them, so cold calling isn't such a heavy lift, but you start to learn a lot about the industry, and you're showcasing yourself with them as one of them, right? Because you're navigating the circles they are. And then ultimately, guys, continuous learning. And we don't have to go, like I said, and become a registered nurse to go and place registered nurses. There's so much out there that we can read. All you have to do is hit everything on Google, read, understand. There's publications, there's periodicals, there's every tool at our disposal for us to understand an industry and what their challenges are. And quite honestly, it doesn't take that long. It just takes some reading that you could probably go and do in your off time, downtime, or weekends to be able to start to have more intelligent conversations other than just, hey, got an open job order. Does that make sense to Genevieve?
Oh, absolutely. I've got to tell you, I worked in IT recruiting and I was like, okay, I had to learn the lingo and I actually listened to applicants and I asked them questions about things because at first I was thinking it was C+, not C#. Okay. Like, no, I had to learn all of this the hard way, but actually going through reading, learning, and listening. And I went to several networking events just to learn more. And that actually was a very, very valuable tool. And in my previous role, because I work in marketing, so I actually would go to the branches and talk to people on both sides and learn more.
I love it. And I apologize. I had to jump in because I'm so excited. I was in the IT side as well. So we're kindred spirits. IT.
Oh, it's difficult, but it's a lot of work, but there's so much out there. And when you educate yourself, right, it's good not only for like the actual candidate, right? You're talking to them, you're learning from them, but also you're learning from what the actual clients want as well. And then this way you can become a subject matter expert.
Yeah, Kim, thank you for sharing this part because it just validated exactly what I recently taught my team. And, I told my team, the most important phase of prospecting is your research phase. Become that subject matter expert. So it's not just, okay, I know what ABC Manufacturing does. It's who are their clients, right? What industries did they serve? What are some of the pain points that are happening right now in their industry? What parts of their industry are up? What parts are down? And, you don't have to spend that much time now with AI. You can just simply ask a large language model these exact questions and it's going to spit that information out to you. And then you ask for sources so you can go and validate. But to your point of being able to speak the lingo, understand the pain points that are happening in their industry, what they're excited about, what keeps them up at night, you're going to be going into that meeting well equipped to talk the talk and walk the walk.
Right. And ask thoughtful, meaningful questions versus a bunch of generic questions that all of our competitors are asking. It was interesting. I have a company that I work with that places a lot of light industrial in California and also folks from the wine industry. And they indicated, again, regulation and compliance drive a lot of hiring. And they said they're starting to see their customers get impacted with mandates of folks from their citizenship status having to leave the country. And they're saying that started to leave openings with their clients that they had in, again, the wine industry and the construction industry. And it was creating a greater demand for this staffing company. So again, a lot of external factors that are out there, maybe in the economy at large can also impact all of our clients. So it's great to know, again, not only the industry, but regulation and legislation and things like that, which you hit on that, Steve. So awesome.
I love that.
All right. So we talked about preparation. Okay. It all starts in the preparation. Genevieve, how many times have you seen an account manager fly into a meeting, seat of the pants, not prepared? And
I've done it in the past.
We're probably all guilty of it, right? We did it ourselves and we've watched others do it and all that. And while you may not crash and burn, you certainly are not going to be able to get all the information and maximize your time there. So what I call is don't squander the opportunity, right? We tried so hard to get to this point where we could have that client meeting. It took tons of cold calling and LinkedIn outreach and emails, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're in front of them. So let's capitalize on this opportunity, right? No squandering. So number one, this sounds really trite, but so many people don't do it, right? If we worked with this company before, especially if you've been in business a long time, maybe it's a dormant account that somebody worked with years ago. Were there meetings? Were there jobs? placements. Is there actually a contract on SharePoint or a contract hidden somewhere in a file that was signed with this company and no one even knew about it because it
Yes.
happened 6 years ago? I've seen that, right? And you're thinking you're starting from scratch when in reality, there's still an evergreen contract in place. Again, understand through, again, ChatGPT or online, whatever it is, what are some of the issues that are impacting them? And then also how companies are adapting to it, right? So I'm sure you work with companies, many of you out there within the same industry. How are other clients that you have handling the issues, right? Maybe they've got a great mechanism to do it. So how other companies are responding to industry issues and your ability to help. And then these final bullets here. Genevieve and Steve, how often have you ever had a recruiter attend a client meeting with you and it really helped get you over the hump?
As often as possible.
Yeah.
I ran a 360 desk.
Oh.
So that was the nitty gritty. So I ran a 360 desk and I was the recruiter and I was the salesman, and I actually walked through the entire process by actually like laying it out play by play. And
Love
it
it.
gave the actual client or prospective client way more confidence in what I was going to do. Also, I brought really good bagels.
Yeah. I love this because, not only great, hey, kudos to you for working the 360 model. I typically was always in the 180. And sometimes if you did get stuck, having that recruiter there to ask different questions and lend an extra layer of credibility, because again, they seem to understand the technical components of it better sometimes than an account manager would, really added that extra layer, to your point, Genevieve, of confidence and capability that the client would have in us. So that was a win.
Yeah, if I could add to that too, not only does the recruiter come with they're more equipped with better questions, but also what I've noticed recently is a lot of companies, they're just throwing mud at the wall when it comes to prospecting and outreach, and they're doing a lot of their discovery calls over the phone, over Teams. They're sending proposals directly after, without doing a site tour, without talking to supervisors and people in the business. And so recently we had a large client we were going after, and my sales rep brought in the ops recruiter with her to the discovery meeting. They asked ahead of time for a site tour in addition to the meeting. So they planned for that. And this prospective customer at the end, it was like, you are the only agency that actually came to the facility, asked for a tour, asked a lot of great questions. Like, you guys came prepared to understand our business and our needs. No one else did. We're ready to sign.
That's incredible. If you think about it, guys, what's the basis of where all the magic happens? It's the in-person client meeting. And to think that people have gotten so comfortable, for lack of a better word, that's probably putting it nicely. We could say a little on the lazier side of not going out to the client site and relying heavily on Teams and Zoom. You can't make that emotional deposit as well as you can in person. And to your point, you can't see the environment and learn when you're looking at, on a Zoom meeting. So talk about a differentiation that you wouldn't think would be one. It actually is when people go out there on site these days. A couple other things to know is hear case studies, right? And I don't mean we have to have these grandiose documents prepared that we show to a client. Understand and capture somewhere, like either in your CRM, SharePoint, somewhere, what your success stories are in the same industry or in the same skill set, right? Like, let's say you're visiting a customer like Genevieve that needs IT security people or Java developers. Be able to point out and have documented somewhere so you can call it to memory or produce it if you had to, where you had success for another similar client placing those similar type of skill sets. These are strong. It helps the customer understand that they've done this before for other people that are similar to me, and I don't have to train them on what these roles do, what the skill sets do, or train them on my industry. So again, collect some type of case studies that showcase your results that are similar, and it's really going to go far. That really helped me. Again, I'll go back to selling in the DoD arena and also state government, local government. Well, here's what I've done for this county, or here's what we did, for this integrator. We supported this particular Fed Civilian program. It speaks volumes because they're like, oh, they get it. They understand the industry. They understand what we're dealing with. I'm not going to have to train this staffing company. Does that make sense?
100%.
100%.
Okay. All right.
Which
So
often, Kim, I've been part of billion-dollar conglomerate staffing firms, part of much smaller and startup firms. I can tell you the big conglomerates, they've got their pretty PowerPoints and they showcase all the big companies they service in that same industry. And that's fine. That works for a lot of your national sales calls. But at a local level, if you're a local sales rep trying to penetrate your own market, you need to bring that in a much clearer delivery method. You need to have real testimonials from a client that's nearby. And we need to be talking to our customers every day about, hey, can I text you maybe an hour in advance when I'm in front of a prospective customer that had the same challenges you had, where we were able to partner with you and solve these problems. If they have a similar one, can they reach out to you and you can share your story with them, and that's more tangible than just a PowerPoint.
100%. Yeah, the testimonials and again, like I said, you don't want some case study that you go and just whip out and bore them to death where they jump out a window. It's more being able to talk to what you've done, and to your point, Steve, Genevieve, be able to showcase a testimonial or a reference that they can reach out to that can kind of on your behalf say, yeah, here's what they did to solve my problem, right? Because that's real. I mean, let's face it. I think all of us read testimonials before we go out and make any major purchase these days, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Even reviews for restaurants. You know what I mean? I like to just break it down to a very basic level.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that is essentially a testimonial for.
Yeah, you want to kind of get the what's the trend, right?
You want to know what you're looking into. So
yeah, exactly. You don't want to make the mistake, right? At least see what others are saying, and I guess that's no different than it is in staffing. So I like that, Steve, coming prepared with those references if they want to reach out. That these folks are primed and ready to talk about their experience with this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many of you have heard about, have either of you heard about or used the upfront contract approach before a meeting? It's a Sandler tool. Oh, Steve has. Okay.
I won't give it away.
Okay. You used it as well?
I tried. Not a big fan.
Really? Okay, great. No, this is actually really good. Okay, so I learned about it in 2013, and at first I was like, I've never done this before, but okay, whatever. Let me give it a try, right? And then I'm going to kind of give you two situations here. One where it wasn't used and a meeting blew up, and one where it was used and it actually kind of saved a meeting. So there's 5 elements to it. It's, why are we meeting, right? What are our objectives in meeting? What do we want to get out of it while we're there? How horrible is it to show up to a meeting, it gets side-railed or derailed with all kinds of extraneous chit-chat, or the person never gets to the point, or they tell you about their vacation. You're looking at your watch going, oh my gosh, we've only got 10 minutes and I'm not going to get through this meeting. They come prepared to talk about what we want to cover, right? Then conversely, it's about them as well. We want them to be engaged and a willing participant of this, right? And so what do they want to get out of the meeting? What topics do they want to make certain that we come prepared to talk about that they care about? It's kind of like buying the car, right? Let's say all you care about is, I want a V8 engine and 4-wheel drive, and you go into the Ford dealership, and that's all you care about, but they don't even ask you that, and they drone on for 30 minutes about the colors and the options and the tech, and you're going, God, I don't even care about that. And you didn't even ask me, right? So we don't want to be that person. Number 4, the time agreement, right? Let's agree up front how long we're going to spend together. So you don't get there and they go, I got 4 minutes for you, Kim, and they're tapping their shoe in the lobby. That's never good. Or they cancel on you. Outcome, agreed upon next steps. And that sometimes, guys, could be, hey, right now we're not a fit for you. We can't provide these type of services, but I know who can. And that's okay. We agree together, willing participant, what the next steps are going to be. So I'm going to put it in action, right? And John, let's see, maybe if I can make you a convert by the end of this, here, and maybe not. But what I'd say is, guys, a guy on my team said, Kim, this sounds so stilted. I don't know that I can say it. And I said, don't memorize the words. Think through the intent and present the intent, right? So again, hey, Bob, sounds like it could be useful for us to get together and explore having conversations. It usually takes about 30 minutes or so. And guys, it could take you 35, it could take you 40, whatever that is. I put 30 in there, depending on your questions. How does that sound, right? We're trying to get them to be willing participants here, right? I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions about ABC staffing, and I'll answer those for you. But in addition, what topics do you want me to come prepared to cover? Or you could say, and this is probably a little more blunt sounding, hey, what do you want to get out of the meeting? What do you want to get out of our time together? I want to make certain I show up prepared with what you need, right? And there's multiple ways to say it. And I sit back and listen, and they tell me, at least they've always told me when I've asked what they want to get out of it. So I'm like, I know what I need to come prepared with, right? And not dance around a bunch of other topics. While you've shared some information with me, what I want to learn about is, and it could be anything, guys. It could be their hiring process or their onboarding or their staffing plan for Q2, Q3, whatever that is, that's your chance to say, hey, here's what I'm going to want to talk about while we're there, right? And again, no mutual mystification, because right here, if they don't know, let's say you book an appointment for next week, what happens between now and next week if all this is vague? They get to next week and they get to the meeting and they go, oh no, Steve's coming in. Oh no, I don't know. What's he going to want? What is he going to want?
I'm just going to cancel this meeting. I don't have time.
How long is it going to take? Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to get all strung out. I got a busy day. I'm just going to cancel them. Right. And we're all human, right? We're all kind of guilty of this. But if someone comes to you, think about it. You're a consumer and they say, hey, it's going to take 30 minutes. You agree to that. Here's what they want to learn about. And then here's what, they're going to cover what you're interested in and then agree on next steps. You're going to be much more open to not canceling that meeting because you're agreeing ahead of time with them what's going to happen in that meeting before that meeting even happens, right? You take all the guesswork out of it. Therefore, you tend not to get as many cancellations and it makes it a little bit more productive. And at the end, we'll decide together on next steps. How does that sound to you, right? So those are the mechanics of it. And Genevieve, tell me why it's something that maybe you're not overly fond of, and then maybe I'll give you a situation where it really
because I did all of this and then I drove an hour and a half one way after we agreed to go have lunch,
right.
And even sent follow-up messages, got confirmation, and then they canceled on me, and I was sitting there with the whole proposal.
Good up.
And so.
Okay, so other than that, so that's a yucky experience, right?
Yeah, so that was an outlier experience. However, it is one of those things. It's you got to be here, hey, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
What would you like to focus on? And so I had some more specifics, but every time it's if I put together a huge proposal, that was one of those things where it was nope. It's I spent 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
For a specific client, and then they wouldn't show up. Or so for myself, I actually found more success by having that talking conversation, just spoken wise, right? This was me personally.
Right.
And then getting the coffee, getting the lunch, getting the time, but also preparation. It's oh, I know what I would put in PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
But having all my talking points.
You make a good point here. What we're trying to do with this too is minimize, I call it free consulting work, right? Where they're going, okay, put together this RFP and send it to me. Okay, well, if I do that, what are our next steps from there, right? What does this do? Are we then on your supplier list? What are the next steps? Versus then you can maybe more, at least for me, I could more intelligently decide if it was something I wanted to do. I could tell by their answer to, after I fill out this RFI, what are the next steps? I could tell if I was getting the runaround and this was just them checking boxes to kind of keep me busy and keep me on the treadmill, or I could tell if they were genuinely interested in moving forward, working with me, and setting up the next meetings and getting rolling. So I think what it could do, to your point, Genevieve, is let you make a more educated decision based on saying, okay, what are the next steps after that? And if they're giving you the runaround, then go say, all right, probably not a good fit to go fill out this RFP. You make that decision. But conversely, maybe it is just one step in like a 3-step process, and they're able to articulate that to your satisfaction, and it makes sense to move forward. So I think if it does nothing else, it helps you decide personally if it's worth moving forward with, or if it's an exercise in busy work, right?
Oh, no, seriously. And that's one of those things I like Stephen and I, we've spoken about this, and we actually, I think in our previous podcast, it was one of those things where we brought up something that I learned in business school in a sales and negotiation class, right? No deal is better than a bad deal. And so at some point in time, you kind of have to figure out when.
Yep.
Yeah. At what point, are you just jumping through hoops? And that's where I think this bottom part can come into where based on how they answer, you can assess for yourself. Do I need to cut rope, cut bait? If I'm just, burning cycles, or is this actually going to go somewhere, right? So at least it's helpful definitely for that. But I have if we have time at the end, I have a great story of how an upfront agenda could have saved something. And it actually made a believer of a guy on my team who at first was like, I hate this. I'm not doing this. I refuse. And in the very end, when he had a deal blow up that could have been saved by this, he's like, okay, I'm going to start using it. So we'll get to the story at the end, but
right, let's
so we'll put that in the parking lot. Put in the parking lot for now. Okay. All right. So assume that let's assume it kind of goes well, Genevieve, and we get there, we do that, a loose version of the components of the upfront contract. And we do it again when we get there when we get there for the meeting, to kind of keep them on track a little bit. So we don't talk 30 minutes about, Timmy's baseball game that's coming up. So a couple things that help me versus just diving into job order specific stuff is I want to understand structure and department of the team and their responsibilities, right? How many times does an account manager come back in with a job order, waving it all excited, you're in your whiteboard meeting, and you have a recruiter go, well, what does the team do? How does it fit into the company? What's that team responsible for delivering for the company? And the AAM doesn't even know that, right? It's like, gosh, how can you not know that? Having this information helps your recruiters sell the job to candidates and work the job much more easily, right?
Yeah.
Again, skills, certs, experience do they need? Peak periods. A lot of people don't ask that. And it's amazing. Like right now, you have cold and flu season. Hospitals have peak periods because of that. Down here in Florida, like Genevieve, you mentioned, you have some family members that are snowbirds. Think about the increased load on hospitals, again, with nurses and inpatient coders, or in IT with the hospitality industry, or not even IT, maybe just, your workers and retail workers, things like that. So again, understanding peak periods. And anyone that's placing accountants right now is probably having a heyday. What are their top business initiatives, right? That could be, a new software release this year. It could be anything. What's the top business initiative at a high level that's happening in that company? Could be a massive opportunity for you, but they're not going to tell you if you don't ask necessarily, right? What are their critical business challenges? Maybe it's, like that company in California, their clients are losing workers because of citizenship issues. It could be, again, I can't find travel RN case managers, and remote places like Wichita, Kansas. Is that something that you can help with? So what are the critical challenges and the top initiatives this year? Really going to give you a good view into some of the higher level pieces versus just, hey, got a job, or what are your open jobs, right? Projects. They should have a forward view into Q2 and Q3 right now. If they don't, I would say that maybe we're talking to the wrong person. They've got to understand what's happening, right? Q2, Q3, what are the hiring requirements going to be? How many people do they think they're going to need? And then have they placed any work on hold? I found a lot of customers place work on hold in 2024 because we were in kind of that tentative environment.
That's right.
Get past the election. So, hey, are you going to move forward with that now? How are you going to do it, right? Strategic changes. That could be different than business initiatives. That could be maybe there's a merger going on. Maybe they're going to do a restructuring, right? Or they're going to do a divestiture. Maybe they're going to do downsizing. And while you look at that and go, oh, that's not an opportunity, could be a huge opportunity for contractors if they're laying off permanent people. Because, Genevieve, you're in IT. You got to have IT security. You got to have system and database administration. You got to have back office finance and accounting, HR functions to a degree. Sometimes that's a great opportunity for contractors when things like that happen, but we won't know if we don't ask.
Well, in addition to that, Kim, is, the contractor piece is fantastic, but also, hey, let us help redeploy some of your talent that you're going to have to lay off.
Beautiful.
We have enough time. We're going to go and talk to our other customers, and we can make this a very positive transition for your people.
I love it. And talk about value add, what we'll get to at the end. That's a great value add and a differentiation way to show your customer. I'm not just here to go and grab business, give me jobs. I'm here to help the people that have been displaced. That's a tremendous value add, and A+ on that, A+. Verifying locations and departments. Guys, I was able to get into several accounts by determining what locations they were struggling in. Just because they're doing great getting people, hired in their facility in Orlando, Florida, doesn't mean they're not struggling in San Antonio, Texas. So if you have capabilities in other areas, this would be a great foot in the door entry point to help them save their business in a struggling area where they just can't find talent, right? And then, of course, their process, understanding process, contract, perm, and then how they would actually improve it. We know they'll tell you if we ask, right? When's the last time they actually used staffing firms? Could have been last week, could have been 2 years ago. All things that are going to kind of let us know what the true opportunity here is. What situations lead to using contractors and where, right? Do they use them just for peak periods like accounting? Or, do they use them, when they have a layoff? What triggers this type of need for a contractor, right?
I love that question.
And then difficult jobs and difficult locations. It kind of harkens back to the last slide, at that last bullet point, but this could be a huge entry point. If you can hit a location that they couldn't, for me, I did a lot of work with HP Federal, and they struggled in Boise, Idaho. And for whatever reason, our recruiting team, we just set up a remote team that focused on that, and they were pretty easy tier 2 desktop support roles, Genevieve, and we were able to just start putting people in there in volumes because our competition wasn't doing it. Next thing you know, we had about 45 people on assignment in Boise, Idaho. Go figure, right? Wouldn't have necessarily thought that, nor would they have told me had I not asked. Okay?
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, guys, if people out there forget everything, remember this slide. Remember these bullets. So. What I found was in doing, global and national accounts is that we compare ourselves to ourselves and think we're doing a great job until we start asking these questions and we find out our competition is blowing us away, right? So we always want to know, what's the agency spend per and contract for the department, and then agency spend for staffing per and contract for the organization. Big difference if you think they're spending $3 million a year on staffing and they're really spending, $63 million a year on staffing. You don't know if you don't ask, right? You're never going to know the true size of the pie, the big picture, and then total number of contractors in the department and in the company in areas that you can service, of course, that you would care about, right? Assuming, let's say, you're doing IT or in finance and accounting. What we found here is we're patting ourselves on the back in these big accounts thinking we're doing great with 25 people. Then we found out our competition had like over 100 IT people in various locations. Whoa, what a cold glass of water in the face. And it made us sit down and work on an account plan that said, okay, how are we going to penetrate this account? We're not doing very well here after all. We're exposed in the customer's eyes because we're not in their top 5 suppliers. Because we never asked this, we never knew what the total picture was, right?
Yes.
So key slide in my mind that really helped kind of frame and change how we started to attack our accounts, and me personally.
Those are all great points.
Okay. And then, these are some of the ones as well, really, we talked about driving pain home, right? Impacting costs when jobs remain open. Are they hitting a lot of overtime hours? People working overtime, people about to quit because they're tired of overtime. Is the manager, is she or he, about to be fired, right? Because they can't hit a deadline. They can't have a software release. They can't get their job done because they can't find people. So they're really like up against the ropes. Sometimes we don't know if we don't start driving that pain home and lead them down the path of self-discovery, right? That what they're doing right now maybe isn't working, and maybe we can help them solve that problem. And then, of course, again, we do have to ask if they have open jobs now. I said, don't lead in necessarily with give me a job, but we do need to know that. That's how we make our money. And then understanding decision makers in the process. Why do you think that's important, guys? I'll just toss that one over to you, and then I'll jump in with it real quick.
Well, I'll start there. It's been stated that 2025 is the year of the CFO. A lot of people are tightening their belts, and normally a controller or a CFO is not looking at every contract for agencies or from agencies. They're letting the HR team do that. But these days, it's not getting, the HR manager is not making that final decision. They are taking it to the CFO, and that happens all the time. But in this year, it is happening every time. And so you're going to have influencers, you're going to have different buyers that are in the decision-making process. And you have to ask the questions of who are those decision makers? Who are those people that need to be involved in this conversation?
Yeah. It's the four buying influences that I typically look for. And you hit the nail here. This is the person signing the check, right? They've got that authority, the economic buying influence. And it really could be the CFO, it could be, your chief technology officer, could be, a VP of engineering, depending on what type of people that you're placing. It's going to help us to know, not only, if we don't know all these people could blow up our deal in the very end as one of these folks jumps into the mix, but it's going to help us penetrate the account more if we understand, who's got the power of the purse, right? Because of course we certainly need to meet that person. And this person's going to have a big view working on the business, not necessarily in the business, right? So always good to know. They're going to know at a high level some of the problems that they're having, which could translate into opportunities for us. And then who's this person, Genevieve? Who do you think the technical buyer is? The picture might give it away.
Oh, okay. So, the technical buyer, in my mind, that is the gatekeeper. You got to get through that fence.
Yes. I love it. Yes.
I love you made that icon a little easier.
Spoken like the true pro and the true person that is like, oh my God, dealing with HR and the MSP just in talent acquisition wears me out. But right, guys, these are the people that, again, they tend not to be our favorites in the staffing industry, but we know we need to know who they are because they can throw a wrench in the whole thing at the very end. And we need to formulate relationships with them along with these people as well. And then this person, that's the guy or gal feeling the pain, right? That's the hiring manager that's at his or her desk going, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job, or I'm going to lose my mind if I can't get people in here. So they're the person that feels the pain. And then finally, like Steve, you mentioned, you called them the influencer, and that's a great word for it. They are the coach, they are the advocate, the people that want us to succeed in the account, right? That lead us around, they give us information, they promote us, they give us, referrals. They're kind of like that inside mole in the account that can really help us out. And you're going, well, how is this, it really ties into penetration. They can tell you so much about what's going on in an account. They can help you navigate to different areas where there's opportunity. But if we don't develop these people, as many as we possibly could find, we're never going to learn. We're going to be doing it the hard way, right? Getting on the phone, going out, doing a client meeting one by one, when this person can be the eyes and ears on the ground to help us. So as many of these as we can get, it opens up opportunity, right?
So you want to know who my favorite influencer is in a building, aside from the normal, like a warehouse manager, production manager, a line lead. If you can get into the building after hours, normal office hours, like just an hour late, so 5:30 to 6:30, guess who's usually there? The IT director. The IT director will tell you everything with no emotion of what's going on in the building, who's who needs to know, what's going on with the other agencies. It's a little secret I've learned recently.
I like it. Yeah. No, coaches are key. And hey guys, this slide is real tactical, but some people don't maximize this. You know, I worked with a girl who was an expert at number 2. Oh, I've been trying to get in touch with Bob. You know, can you walk me over to his desk? Before we would leave the building, we would go and have 5 more introductions to people that, you know, we hadn't met with before. And she was very respectful. It wasn't let's go have a sit down meeting and occupy 45 minutes of their time. It was like, you know, hey, I've been trying to reach out to you. Nice to meet you. Put a face with a name. I'm going to call you for just a quick introduction in your office when you have more time. They will do that. If you ask for intros to be walked around to other areas, it's rare that I have been told no, or at least they'll take you to their office and you have a shot, right? It's so much quicker and easier than doing that cold call, banging your head through a wall. So I would always ask for that. I was taught by someone that was, again, she was amazing at it. And then ask for the referral and email. What I do, I write it for them. Because if I don't write it for them, it could take 2 weeks or it may never happen at all as they forget. I would say, hey, is it okay, Bob, if I write it for you? You can either feel free to forward it on and copy me, or you can take it and clean it up or change it, you know, as you see fit. Just know that you're busy and want to be respectful of your time. So again, this can work as well, again, and save you and help you penetrate the account more quickly than beating your head through the wall with a cold call. So again, asking them for help. And I know we get squeamish about doing it in staffing. We feel like, oh God, you know, kind of guilty, but you know, questions are free. And if you've done a good job for them, chances are they're probably going to help you. But okay, so this slide, how many of you, Genevieve or Steve, be honest, still actually ask for an org chart today or build an org chart in a company?
I will try to see what I can find online.
Yeah.
First of all, and then if there's anything where there's no real clarification, I have no problem being like, oh, hey, did someone take over this position? Because I know formally it was so-and-so. And most of the time, if you just ask them, they'll tell you.
I love it. You are, I could tell you why you were very, very good in IT staffing. So guys, this is like cheating. It's the answers to the test. You can go on LinkedIn and get a ton of different names, but it's hard to organize who works for who. It's so much easier to get an org chart if you can ask for it, if you can write it, if you can go and take a photo of it, whatever it is. I've had managers say, hey, look, I can't send it to you, but I'm going to turn my back and you can go and do whatever you need to do with your phone, wink, wink, nod, nod, or actually sit down and start writing it out. And the operative word is help, right? Whenever you use the word help, people want to jump in. There's something with that word that's kind of, brings out empathy in all of us. Hey, can you help me understand what this team looks like? Who runs application development? Who runs network and infrastructure? Who runs system database administration, PMO? That way we know everyone we need to meet. It's kind of like cheating, getting the answers to the test, and we can jump on it more quickly and trying to piece it together through LinkedIn. So great way to help penetrate an account.
I'm so guilty of not doing this.
Start asking for it, making it a habit. It really will help you out. And then store it in the CRM. I've seen a lot of org charts on people's desks, guys, that have coffee stains on them and they're rumpled and wrinkled. And the next thing you know, they're kind of degraded. So, get it in the system. That way, you have it there and you can kind of build on it, right? And this kind of comes to closing, kind of a little bit back to the upfront contract, right? Demonstrating how we can help them based on what we know and showing a success story, talking about that to draw a parallel if needed. Setting that expectation of candidate marketing. Guys, that's a great value add that we'll get to in a minute. And it's huge. And I want them to know that I'm going to be candidate marketing so they're not shocked and in shock and awe when they start to see me do that, right?
Yeah.
Set the next meeting while you have the captive audience. Hey, Bob, you mentioned you're going to have start to kick off your project in August. What about we get together at the very beginning of July so we start talking about the requirements and what that's going to look like and timelines. While we're here, let's look at our calendars. Get it on the calendar so you're not chasing Bob down, the whole month of June and July and into August. Usually they'll do this, right? Try it if you haven't done it, would be my thoughts. And of course, agreeing on next steps together, which goes in line with that whole upfront contract, right? Okay. So when we do all this, we ask these questions, it should help us customize a solution. So real quickly, just opportunities of things that I look for after asking all these questions are, am I in a specific industry vertical where I know they're going to have challenges with skills? which can be, again, government IT, healthcare, manufacturing. There's just some industries that are really fraught with hard time trying to find resources, and it could be a good opportunity if I have my eyes and ears open on it. In-demand skills. We know there's a need for CPAs or RN case managers, IT security, Java developers. If we have the ability and we have a knack for finding these people, look for in-demand skills. Kind of goes without saying. High churn. Look for a high churn environment where people are running in the front door, and then falling out the back door. Happens a lot with customer service, as we know, again, or IT support. We don't want to be known as the desktop vendor, but I was able to actually go into a couple companies within the government space, integrators, start to go do tier 2 desktop support. And what it did was open the door to the more higher level roles, right? Like development and business analysis and more managerial type of roles. But again, it was a great way in the door, just opening up my mind and my ears and asking and determining they were struggling with something like this. And that's where we could jump in and add help and start to gain client share. Okay. I mentioned earlier, difficult geographies, great entry point to go and get in and also penetrate. Look for high volume or project needs. That's a great one. And of course, companies that are challenged, right, with MSP or internal process, that's an awesome opportunity to go in and get penetration, start to lift some of this from them from an SOW standpoint, maybe, right? So have they ever done SOW? That's a whole nother conversation for another day.
Oh, I'm bringing you back for SOWs.
That's a great one, to kind of get around that MSP, because the managers typically don't like it any more than we do, right? And then asking them, what additional service offerings, would benefit you and your team? So what we're trying to say here, be a proactive problem solver. Just don't sit there and wait for them to tell you, well, this is a problem, that's a problem. By asking all these questions, we should be resourceful enough to start to see opportunity kind of present itself to us without them necessarily having to come out and say it. So just be proactive with your eyes and ears open, and it's going to help you go in and dominate that account a whole lot more. So with this one, it kind of leads into our very final segment on value add, right? So Genevieve and Steve, do you ask them, what service offerings would benefit them in their company, or what would be value add to them beyond the placement? Do you guys ask that typically in your day-to-day activity?
Absolutely. And one of those questions, in a different way of asking, if you could wave a magic wand, what other services would you like to see from your staffing partner?
I love the magic wand way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that, they'll typically tell you, and it could be anything, right? What are we going to give you beyond filling the job? And it's different from company to company. A lot of them really just want industry information or marketing data, salary data, things like that we can pretty easily get and provide to them. Providing them a newsletter, or our blog, or our articles. What a great way to reuse our inventory that we have out there on our website. Hey, thought of you. And I don't ask for anything in return, right? Hey, I thought of you. This is a blog about why it's so hard to find CPAs in today's environment. This had you written all over it. Thought of you. Just send it to them. Don't ask for anything in return. No favor, no anything. Just kind of making that emotional deposit with them, right? Without wanting anything in return. So for instance, guys, we're all familiar with Haley Marketing. So today at 2, they're having a recap of the SIA conference last week. So I sent that to many of my customers yesterday morning and said, hey guys, if you weren't able to attend this, here's going to be a great recap of the SIA exec forum tomorrow on a webinar or 2 for free. You can learn all the information, and hey, you didn't have to pay to fly to Miami and attend it last week. And many of them are like, wow, this is great. I'm going to listen in. I want to learn all this information about what's going on in staffing in 2025. So again, do it. Don't ask for anything in return. It's making the emotional deposit. Yeah. Here's one right here. And I know you guys are all over it. Many staffing companies don't do this. They don't do a LinkedIn Live or a webinar or anything like that for something that's going to benefit their clients. It's really strong as a staffing company if you know your clients' issues. Maybe they're struggling with onboarding or interviewing or whatever the case may be. Go out and put a webinar together 3 times a year, or a LinkedIn Go Live that's maybe 20, 30 minutes. It's going to help them through a problem they're struggling with, and invite them to it. it starts to attract people to you. And not only that, it provides value to them, right? Other than just, hey, here's a candidate. Any thoughts on that, guys?
You just validated what. So in May, we are doing a listening event from the top HR thought leaders from some of the top companies in the state of Utah, where most of our locations are at. And so we have 3 workshops back to back. You get to pick which one, right? And we have sold out every class. And so we're going to have the top HR leaders here in Utah workshopping, talking about their employment strategy in 2025, what's working, what's not, what keeps them up at night, what excites them. So just a group of great leaders sharing ideas, and all we're doing is facilitating the conversation, and we get to learn from them.
I mean, what a tremendous value add. Jump in.
Well, then in addition, we have free ebooks that we're putting out there as well. And then just a big part of social selling, value add. So getting out all those statistics, even in emails with no ask, even with social media, and just really educating people, being like, here, hey, this is how you can go and reduce turnover. And it's a 28-page, well-sourced, well-done document. So definitely that is one of our proactive approaches that we do take.
Yeah. I love how you use the word educate. I meant to use that word back probably 10 slides ago, and I forgot to do it, because you hit a great point, John. Our clients today are looking for us to educate them on things, their problems, their issues, what's going on in the industry. Education is key. So we have to also be those educators. And Steve, you kind of alluded to this with those events that you're setting up. What you're doing is the third bullet. You're basically making peer introductions between all these HR professionals that are in the same industry, so they can kind of troubleshoot their issues together and they can learn from one another, right?
That's right.
Huge value add on that. Gosh, these people understand what I go through on a day-to-day basis. They're also in HR. Huge. And John, you have great in the IT space. I've had like CIOs going, okay, we're doing this Oracle e-business suite implementation. Kind of want to bounce a few things off somebody. Oh, well, wait, they did that at Pinellas County. How about I connect you with that CIO and you guys can have a conversation? You broker the introduction and then poof, they think you're a hero, right?
Oh, networking. If I can go and connect anyone to help make them better and each other better, I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It's strong, and it only takes a minute, right? All this stuff doesn't take that long. And guys, this one, I know you're all over it. If you have a podcast or a blog or an article you're going to write, inviting your client to be part of that, to be interviewed for that, they love it, right? They're thrilled to go and get on a podcast. Jean-Pierre or Steve's client to say, hey, here's what I'm experiencing, here's what we're doing. So I know you guys are on it. I mentioned this earlier. So many people today, I feel like in the staffing industry, I really try to sell people on doing this, and people tend to hate it and rebuff it and not want to do it because it takes time. But what I'd say is it really moved the needle for me personally. If you just make a small commitment, right? It's kind of like when we go on a diet, right? We don't want to say, well, I'm going to lose 100 pounds because that's like daunting and then you never get started. You just say, hey, I'm going to go to one professional association event and invite the person. I'm going to do it once every 6 weeks, right? Be it a lunch or something like that, for whatever it is that focuses on the industry that you're in. Do just one every 6 weeks, and talk to people while you're there. It will pay so much dividends in terms of like you personally, selfishly getting to learn. But two, being able to go and capitalize on it for introductions and getting to know people better and build rapport and finding candidates and finding clients. So I'd say to anyone listening out there, challenge yourself with this one and try it. Just try it. Take a baby step on it, right?
That's right.
I love that.
Oh, jump in, Johnny, please.
Oh, I just said I love that. That's one of those things, like, because I've done it in the past, and what's an hour and a half of your time?
Exactly. And usually there's a lunch involved with it, and it's not that expensive. So worst case scenario, you get a lunch. And I think you get out of those what you put into it. If you're going to sit in the corner and just eat your lunch or sit in the corner and just talk to the person that, from your company that you came with, it's not going to work, right? You definitely have to put yourself out there and just go and start talking to people. And the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets, and it becomes like second nature, and it's no big deal, right? So a key one there. This bullet, I use these sources for things to send my clients. SHRM.org has amazing daily newsletter content about legislation, regulation, compliance, changes in the workforce. It's a great one. Comes right into your mailbox. It's free, and I'll parse out articles from time to time and send them to applicable clients. Staffing Hub. We met our Staffing Hub friends back at the conference last week. Their newsletter is tremendous. Yeah. And then Forbes, they actually have different sections, like for CIOs, leadership sections. Sign up for their emails in various sections that would be applicable to your business, and they send out some great newsletters as well. Point is, litany of opportunity out there that can just flow into your mailbox. It's a great way to make the emotional deposit and keep in touch, right?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, how many of you out there, all two of you, Steve and Genevieve, have had your clients tell you that staffing companies fall down when they place contractors on assignment? They leave them out here and they forget them. They don't manage them. They don't manage their issues. And ultimately they leave, right? And they blow up the assignment because they left.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
I've heard that being a complaint multiple times. And here, that was one of those things. You call the candidate, hey, Mr. Candidate, want to make sure that you are ready. Right. Here's the address. Here are the instructions, the elevator. You're going to want to go all the way down the hall. It's going to be the one on the left. Go to this floor. Here's the time. I'm going to give you a friendly reminder. There are times I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning and do a wake up call. Like if they needed it, I would do that. And then
I love that. Wow.
End of the day check in. Be like, hey, how did your first day go? Did you get to meet so-and-so? And then it's like after day 3, I would do it again. And then I would do it at the end of the week. And then I would do at least 2 more check-ins. And so I actually had a full 30-day process.
You hit the nail on the head. You had a process outlined for this bullet. It's a process, right? And if we develop one as a staffing company, it's pretty easy to follow, whatever that is. Week 1, do this, week 2, do that. Follow that process, because it's going to mean that they stay on assignment. What's in it for you is more billings. What's in it for the client is the fact that it doesn't blow up my whole project when they leave. And Genevieve, you even started before that. You started here, because let's face it, the wheels can fall off at onboarding too. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you know, your candidates bounced out of the process because onboarding was clunky. So you've got both of these nailed. And I would say staffing companies need to have this nailed, have a process for all this, right?
And I would also go call the hiring manager being like, hey, how did they do on their first day?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Oh, no, just be like, great. And so if there was anything else, sometimes you just got to be a little bit of a liaison, because people, it's like they could be speaking the same thing, but it's not translating right. And actually just putting it together, taking that extra 5 to 10 minutes a day, it actually helped out with retention.
You're right. And we don't know if we don't ask. And if it's a small issue, like you said, we can typically resolve it quickly before it grows into something insurmountable and the person quits, right? So you're hitting on these, hey guys, we want the feedback loop, right? What can we do better that other staffing firms aren't doing right now? And having a process and a frequency for getting feedback on us, So again, who's that top staffing company? What sets them apart? What's been your experience with our performance, and how can we improve? I always want to know this, because again, it could be a huge opportunity here for something that we didn't even think of that could help us gain client share, or maybe we have something that's broken that needs fixing. It can be hard to ask this and hard to look ourselves in the mirror if they tell us something we don't want to hear, but we need to hear it because we need to address it. Better now, because problems get really bad with time. And then the final slide, you're going, oh my God, there was one more. Deliver and follow up. Do what you say you're going to do, right? Because if you're not dependable and you're not reliable and you're saying you're going to do something and you don't follow through on it, you have that immediate black eye. Right? Like you said, hey, I'll complete your RFI, and you don't do it, right there. They're like, why would I ever even work with this person? If you're not going to do it, don't sign up for it. Okay. I think it's as simple as that. And we're going to make mistakes, admit it, correct the problem, own it, and move on. And again, I think just having that attitude of this is all long-term relationship, and I'm here for the long-term pieces of it. So it may not have an immediate payout today, but I'm going to show gratitude and make all my decisions based on a long-term mindset, right? And ultimately help set you apart.
Exactly.
All right. And that is actually the conclusion of a lot of the pieces of gaining client share. So I'd say, to the folks out there, what techniques do you feel like you could incorporate into your desk tomorrow to help you from a standpoint of client share and gaining that?
Kim, that was so fun. So I think I might have 5 techniques. Maybe I should start with 3. This has been the longest episode we've recorded so far, and I think we could have went much longer. This was just, we pride ourselves in giving the playbook. That's why it's the Staffing Playbook. You gave us the playbook today, Kim, on how you can gain client share. This has been just an incredible conversations. I think about your insights that you've shared about, how you can truly penetrate an account. Having that upfront contract, I know John Viev goes back and forth on this, but especially with current customers, being able to have that upfront contract, it really sets the stage for the meeting, sets the expectations. Going in, I think my biggest takeaway here was don't go in for an order, right? That might be an end result, but everyone else goes in for an order. If you're an account manager or you're responsible for a customer, take that objective off the table and follow this guide that Kim just shared. This is how you build trust with your clients. And when you build trust with your clients, it will be a game changer for your business, and you will have the opportunity to further expand your market share within that book of business. Kim, where can listeners find you? I've got a website here, cobaltcompass.solutions.com. Is that the best way to find you?
Yes, that's great. And then also I'm on LinkedIn as well. And you can just DM me on LinkedIn, and happy to answer any questions or follow on. And what I'd say to John Viev, how about maybe we call it an agenda? We'll quit calling it the upfront contract. Maybe that makes it better.
An agenda. I'll take that.
I know it's definitely, it's a tough one sometimes to put into place and get it rolling where it can make sense. But
that's right.
But I love it. And the thing is, at least it's having a strategy and implementing it and going through all of the steps, doing your homework, doing your prep work, setting the time expectations, learning, listening, and educating yourself and educating the potential client themselves. Those are phenomenal just pieces. Anyone can go and start implementing that today.
That's right.
100%.
Kim, thank you again. So again, if you want to check out Kim, look her up, Kim Henderson on LinkedIn, as well as cobaltcompass.solutions.com. It's there on the screen. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Staffing Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, like, comment, share this with your network, and we will see you again next Friday. Kim,
thank you.
We want you back. Come again.
Thank you once again. You've been phenomenal.
Okay,
Beso.
Thank you.